So if you're the one managing a commercial space, a hospital, a school, maybe a whole retail chain, you know the walls take an absolute beating. Graphics that look incredible on day one can start looking tired and worn out in just a few months. And let's be honest, the demand for durability, it's through the roof. So today, we're going to break down the technologies that act less like temporary decor and more like a true architectural finish. Let's get into it. Here's the game plan. First up, we're going to define the core problem that everyone's facing. Then, we'll put the two leading technologies head-to-head in a real durability showdown. After that, we'll look at the long-term picture, maintenance and lifecycle costs, and finally, we'll give you a simple framework for making the right choice for your next big project.
Before we can even talk about solutions, we've got to be on the same page about the challenge. If you're a facility manager or a designer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're out there, on the front lines, dealing with finishes that just don't hold up in today's high-traffic world.
So yeah, let's just ask it straight up, because I bet you've seen this a million times. Why do so many wall graphics peel, scuff, and just fall apart so quickly? Well, the answer really lies in the daily abuse they have to endure.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got carts, gurneys, and kids' backpacks constantly scraping along the walls. You've got frequent, really aggressive cleaning with hospital-grade disinfectants. And then you've got the seams. They're like the Achilles heel of traditional wall coverings, right? It's always where the peeling starts and where grime just loves to collect. These are the everyday stressors that lead to total failure.
So, what's the answer? Well, the industry has evolved, and it's really brought us two main contenders. You have the traditional layered vinyl approach, and then you have the more modern direct-to-wall UV printing technology. And the difference between them? Well, it all starts with how they're built.
And this, right here, shows you the night and day difference. On one side, you've got UV ink, which creates this single, solid, or monolithic film that's cured directly onto the wall. There are no layers, no glues, and critically, zero seams. On the other side, you've got the layered vinyl system. It's a stack, a base film, an adhesive, a laminate, with a seam every 4 feet or so. And every single one of those layers and every single one of those seams is a potential point of failure.
Okay, let's geek out for a second on the science, because this is cool. UV ink isn't just sitting on the wall. It's a polymer film that chemically cross-links and physically interlocks with the tiny little textures of the wall itself. It basically becomes a part of the wall, creating this incredibly hard, continuous surface.
Now, compare that with vinyl. At its core, it's basically a very sophisticated plastic sticker. Its entire performance hinges on a thin layer of pressure-sensitive adhesive. And that adhesive? It's vulnerable. It can be weakened by moisture, by temperature swings, by cleaning chemicals. And that's exactly why it can start to creep, bubble up, and lift at the edges over time.
Okay, time for the main event. We know how they're made, but how do they actually hold up under stress? This is where the rubber meets the road, or, the gurney meets the wall. This is the durability showdown.
Let's start with a hard number. Cured UV inks can get a pencil hardness rating of 3H to 4H. Now, to put that in perspective for you, that is way harder than most commercial paints, and even a lot of laminates. What does that mean in the real world? It means incredible resistance to scratches and scuffs from things like carts, keys, and backpacks. It's a tough, measurable advantage.
So how does this all play out in the real world? Well, for UV ink, failure is really, really rare. You'd pretty much have to damage the wall underneath it to cause even a tiny chip. But for vinyl, oh man, the list of potential failures is long. You've got edge lift, shrinkage that exposes the wall behind it, those ugly tunneling bubbles, adhesive creep, and of course seams that just collect dirt. And we're not talking about what-if scenarios. This stuff happens all the time in busy places.
This quote from the source material just hits the nail on the head. It says that the very construction of a vinyl system with all its layers and exposed edges creates its own weak points. The problem, the failure point, is literally built right into the product from the start. But hey, durability isn't just about what happens on day one, right? It's about the entire life of the product. So let's talk about long-term maintenance and what the true cost of ownership really looks like. So, what's it like to live with UV graphics? Well, the care is actually super straightforward, and it probably aligns with the cleaning protocols you already have. You can use common hospital-grade disinfectants, things like quats or isopropyl alcohol, without worrying about messing up the surface. And most scuffs, they're just material transfer that wipes right off. It's truly designed for the real world. But here is the real game changer. The biggest advantage over the entire life cycle is this. When it's time for a rebrand or an update, you just paint over it. That's it. There is no expensive, super labor-intensive removal process, no scraping glue off the walls for days, and no sending giant rolls of plastic waste to a landfill. This is huge for reducing downtime and the total cost over the life of your space.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground. Now, how do you take all this information and make the right call for your specific project? Let's build a really clear decision framework. All right, this is where it gets really simple. You should be seriously looking at direct-to-wall UV printing if your project needs line up with the following points. Think of this as your professional checklist.
Just think about your project. Do you need a fast installation with as little disruption as possible? Do you want a more sustainable, PVC-free solution with no adhesives? Do you have to cover different kinds of surfaces, like drywall and brick, but make it all look uniform? Is routine, harsh cleaning an absolute must? Is brand consistency across dozens of locations critical? And do you want a simple paint-over option for the future? If you're sitting there nodding your head to these, well, the choice becomes pretty clear, doesn't it?
Ultimately, it all boils down to this one question. And it's a big one. Do you see your walls as a recurring expense, something you're constantly fixing and replacing, or do you see them as a durable, long-term asset that's going to enhance your space for years and years to come? The technology you choose is going to determine that answer.